Philomena Kunk, the UK's queen of deadpan satire. She's made you laugh and cringe. And now there's a podcast all about this TV icon, Kunked, a very unofficial podcast. That's CUNKD on all podcast platforms. Kunked covers the brilliantly awkward world of Philomena Kunk, hosted by a razor-sharp Brit and a witty American who unpack every ridiculous moment with clever commentary and cultural banter. If you love Philomena Kunk satire, absurdity, and laughing till it hurts, Kunked is for you. So be sure to check out Kunked on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Kunked. Start listening right now.
This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers, and welcome back to Juneffer Lopez here at Bad Movies We Love. As always, I am your host, Nick Scheist,
the master of this stupid stuff.
If you're like me and you love your trash with treasure buried inside, you're in the right place. So before we dive in, do me a solid. If you like what you hear, follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode, because we have a long list of movies to go through. You can help out by leaving a rating and a review, especially if you've ever come across one of the movies we're covering here on the show and said, wait, this movie rules. Reviews are like digital word of mouth, and they are probably the best way to help more weirdos like us find the show. And if you really want to support the show, check out the exclusive bonus episodes on the Resistance members-only tier at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do so by sending me an email at badmovieswelove@theshice.com. You can also call the Bad Movies We Love hotline at 1-805-285-3885 and leave me a voicemail. That voicemail might even get played on the show. And if you want to tell me something but you prefer to remain anonymous, you can do so by taking the listener survey. It's only about 5 questions right now. Should only take you maybe a minute or two at the most. And the information for all of that stuff is up conveniently for you in the show notes, just a click away. And now, on to the fun stuff. We kicked off Juneffer Lopez with The Cell, which was creepy and weird and disturbing but fun. And now we're going to head in a different direction as my friend and my co-host from Bi-Mon-Sci-Fi-Con, Stephanie, is here, and we're going to be talking about a movie that created a lot of formative experiences. And while it's not J-Lo's first role, I think I can safely say it is her breakthrough performance. That's right, we're talking Joseph Ruben's police comedy buddy action thriller. It's Money Train from 1995. Did you like White Men Can't Jump?
Most of this movie is fun, so the discussion is going to be fun.
I would hazard a guess that people didn't even know that there was a money train until the movie Money Train happened.
A couple of years ago, I made a point to get it, and yeah, on rewatch, I definitely love it.
This is probably the least J-Lo movie of all the J-Lo movies that we're going to cover, but I think this movie is important in her career.
This character had a lot of effect, I feel like, on my development as a person and who I wanted to be.
This movie is a blunderbuss.
I'd like to talk just a little bit more about Chris Cooper.
Robert Blake will fuck you dead.
That was my first porn, man.
You know, I wanted to tell you that, this job can be hazardous to your health if you take it too seriously.
Yeah, well, I don't know no other way.
Me neither. I mean, it does take a special kind of person to do this job, you know. Someone with dedication.
Perseverance.
Stamina.
Strength.
Courage.
Cojones.
Stephanie, welcome back to the show. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but it feels familiar at the same time. So, yeah, it's like coming home.
Oh, that's sweet of you to say. It hasn't been that long. I mean, you know, we were doing the sci-fi show, which we kind of got in a regular groove for, and that we will get back to. But it gave us time to sort of familiarize ourselves with each other and get in a groove of working together. So this is not like super unfamiliar territory, as if you were just coming here once every 6 months to pop on the show.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a veteran at this point.
I would agree. You definitely accumulated, I think, a lot of overall episodes on the show now. You're probably one of like the top 3 or 4 guests in terms of total volume.
I am honored.
Yeah, well, so am I. And since you are the guest of honor today, and you're here to celebrate Juneffer Lopez, I will let you do the honors and introduce what movie we're talking about.
All right. Today on Bad Movies We Love, we will be talking about the Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, Juneffer Lopez movie, Money Train.
Well, that was much more professional than I had planned for. I just was looking for Money Train, but thank you for that.
Well, yay brain. It delivered for once.
And yes, this is Money Train, directed by Joseph Ruben, who you may know from Dreamscape, Sleeping with the Enemy, The Good Son, Stepfather, which is a very underrated horror movie, written by Doug Richardson, also wrote Bad Boys and Die Hard 2, and David Loughrey, who wrote The Three Musketeers, Lakeview Terrace. Like you said, stars Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, also Robert Blake, also Chris Cooper. And
Cooper, he's my boy.
And of course, the one and only Juneffer Lopez in what was only her 3rd feature at the time, behind My Little Girl in '86 and My Family in 1995.
Neither of which I have heard of, so.
I had only heard of My Family because I heard J-Lo talking about it in doing interviews for Money Train. Otherwise, I'm completely in the dark. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. No. I have. Yeah. I guess this must have been my first exposure to Juneffer Lopez as well.
That's a good point. I think when I think of J-Lo's career, I don't know what I saw first. I mean, I used to watch, was it In Living Color, where she was a fly girl? She was a dancer. So I wasn't like super unfamiliar with her, but she wasn't a personality necessarily on that show that you would immediately recognize. And I think in terms of her sort of like acting career, she wasn't transitioning to music, I don't think, yet around the time of Money Train. I think that came later. She had done some music videos as a dancer where she danced for Janet Jackson. Then I think that was 93. And then In Living Color was for a couple of years in the early 90s. She'd done like TV movies. And then like her music career didn't end up starting until like maybe late 90s, 2000s, where it was like, this is the direction that she's going to go in. So it might have been the first time I ever saw Juneffer Lopez, like in a sense that she was cast for being a person in a movie versus like a background dancer. Right.
This is definitely, in my opinion, a good introduction to her. She plays an awesome character in this movie, and she's one of the reasons why I love it so much. So kudos to her from me.
Well, you know, when I sort of mentioned that I was watching this movie, our friend Cosmo said she loves Money Train. It's what she said, quote unquote, stellar Lopez.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. In my brain, I was like, that sounds like an altcoin. And that may be the thing that becomes the ad for the show. The new coin brought to you by Juneffer Lopez. The JLo cryptocurrency.
I like it. Can I buy a few?
Sure.
You already got some sales.
Yeah, I always sort of look back on this movie as this is something that I didn't watch because of Juneffer Lopez. This is something that, I was a fan of Wesley Snipes action stuff in the 80s and 90s. I was a fan of White Man Can't Jump, which came before this. So it just felt like, hey, these are familiar faces getting to do their friendly bantery thing again. And I mean, I think that's basically the entire premise behind the movie is like, let's give these two guys a reason to make a movie again. And introducing Juneffer Lopez in sort of like her first big role, her first sort of like Hollywood blockbuster, I think she does a good job. She is noticeable in the film, and I think she brings a lot to this story, given that what we see is kind of like recycled between Wesley and Woody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, like, I mean, that sounds stupid. Why I watched it. why did I want to watch this? No. But I think it was probably one of these things. I know I didn't see it in theaters, so I think I might have just caught part of it when I was flipping channels on TV. Like it might have been HBO, probably HBO. And I was drawn in. Like I didn't see White Man Can't Jump until after this. And I don't remember. That was probably years and years after its release that I saw White Man Can't Jump. But Wesley and Woody do really, they play so well together. And these characters are very engaging. And so whatever the reason, whether it was them or the action or the snippets of comedy that I caught, I was sucked in. And ever since then, I have watched it at pretty much every opportunity.
I went to my shelf thinking maybe I own this, and it turns out that I don't. So I had to rent it again, but whatever. I think it was $4 well spent.
Yeah. I definitely, it's one that I have in my collection. Just because, yeah, I got it a couple of years ago. I made a point to get it because I was like, oh man, I haven't seen this in forever. And I really remember loving it. And yeah, on rewatch, I definitely love it.
Well, I think similar to you is a movie that I had seen on cable. So I had just seen it so many times on cable that I was like, oh, I definitely own this movie. Turns out I don't, which is okay. But it's a movie that I've always enjoyed, and I didn't really realize how shitty of a reputation it had until now-ish.
Until you looked it up to see if the score was good enough for the show?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I figured it wasn't beloved as like the pinnacle of action cinema, but I didn't really have a grasp for exactly how low some of these scores were going to be. But it's a good time to go to the tail of the tape so we can talk about exactly how low these scores are. And it has an IMDb of 5.7, which isn't like terrible. It's respectable. It has a Rotten Tomato critic score, though, of 22%. Which is pretty bad.
Critics, they're always so critical. What the hell?
Yeah. Who'da thunk? And also, the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes is 29%. So that's where I think audiences at the time didn't like it. I was not exposed to sort of the reputation of films and box office and stuff at 95. I'm an 11-year-old. I'm not really paying attention to that kind of thing too much. And so all of that sort of like escaped me. The reputation of that, like as I got to like maybe like 12, 13, 14 was when sort of media surrounding films began to be a little bit more prominent in at least my memory of like my reaction to certain films. Like, oh, I know that movies around 97 or 98 had really bad reputations kind of thing. But also like Waterworld was 95. And this was like the first movie that I really heard was like just bombed by the media over and over again. And so same year. But this movie's also got a Letterboxd score of 2.8. So in line with the IMDb score. It has no Metacritic score, which is interesting, but it does have a Google users thumbs up, thumbs down rating of 81%. Thumbs up.
Google users. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if a lot of those are coming like in retrospect, you know, like because obviously Google wasn't around when this movie came out. So this might be people looking back on it with a more favorable opinion than they might have had if they were exposed to it when it was first new.
Yeah. And they also use the system that I like, which is like, do you like it or not like it?
Right.
And so
that is pretty. It doesn't allow for a lot of nuance, but it's very to the point. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up like, okay, let's just give it a rating, thumbs up or thumbs down. So most people see it. Yeah, thumbs up. 81% of people that are Google users said, yeah, thumbs up on this movie. So those are my people.
I wonder if some audiences at the time weren't like really coming into it hoping for another White Men Can't Jump and just felt like it didn't quite live up to that dynamic. And maybe that kind of colored rather than if they had walked into it with no Wesley Woody baggage.
I mean, that is fair, right? I think trying to recapture that magic is it's a really tough thing to do. The reason
never goes well.
Yeah, the reason that White Men Can't Jump works so well is because of their dynamic, and it also just has a very like interesting character driven story where this movie definitely leans a lot more into the action and the spectacle of it. And there was a lot more money spent on that side of things. And so it's almost like it's almost a Wesley Snipes action movie.
Yeah.
That happens to also feature his buddy that you remember from this other movie and the new hot actress that is trying to, you know, make a name for herself. So it's like, it's a weird thing where all these things are coming together in something that doesn't ultimately work amazingly, but is still enjoyable.
You're naming all the reasons why I think this movie is awesome and sort of like couching them in a negative light. And that's funny to me because, yes, I love this as an action movie. I feel like it works so well. And Wesley Snipes is like, I didn't even think of it until rewatching it for this discussion, but he's like a really tremendous action star. It makes me want to rewatch all the Blades.
Yeah.
Like, that's been forever since I saw those, but like he's such a good martial artist and he just, he has this energy like in one of the first scenes when they're chasing the robbers through the train station, and he grabs the one guy and slams him up against the wall and handcuffs him and goes, "Stay." He just like rasps it. And I'm like, yes, this is it. This is the energy I want for the entire rest of the movie. Keep going, Wesley.
Yeah, he was a very engaging action star. And I feel like he's also a pretty good comedic actor when he wants to be. And as much as, you know, this is a celebration of Juneffer Lopez, and we will continue to talk about her throughout the course of the episode and throughout the month, I couldn't help but think to myself, like, I maybe want to do a Wesley Snipes month at some point as well. Just because he's got a lot of movies that kind of fall like in this score range where like even Passenger 57, which at the time during the 90s was like, everybody loved this movie. And I look, I'm like 5.4 or 5.7. I'm like, okay, well, maybe now we're cooking with fire. I might be able to cover all of Wesley's movies. I might even be able to sneak a Blade movie in there.
There you go. Yeah. And I would love to come on for one of those episodes too if you're looking for guests.
Yeah, well, it's not planned yet, but I will be recruiting.
Just putting it in your head.
Look, we could do Snipes Timber. I think
I like it.
Lines up easily. But speaking of movies and scores, this movie ended up with a Bad Movies We Love total score of 49 out of 100. So like kind of like right under the ideal sweet spot for movies that are polarizing in one direction or another. This one lands more in the realm of like, yeah, most people agree that it's not a good movie, but I think for a movie that is a 90s action vehicle, it's kind of exactly what I want out of that type of movie. It's an hour and a half. It gives the action. I feel like the script is insane. We're going to come back to that because there are some line readings in this movie that are just like off the charts crazy. And there's the action, there's like the weird music choices that go along with this. Like the tone of the music at a bunch of different points in the movie is all very weird. But you can see that a lot of care and effort went into sort of like the practical application of making the film. There's a lot of money spent on making this film. So they didn't like cut corners and just try to cheaply give us the Wesley Woody package again and just like make money off of it. Like this actually was the opposite, where they spent a lot of money thinking it was going to be successful and it didn't end up making that much money.
Oh, I didn't even pay any attention to the box office. But I have it on the side of my screen right here. Budget 68 million estimated, gross worldwide 35 million. So yeah, that's ouch. Yeah. Not great. But hopefully the nostalgia level, the love in the intervening years and the joy that the art has brought to all of us has made it a positive in the balance of the world.
I hope so. But what made this movie come to mind for you when thinking about Juneffer Lopez movies for Bad Movies We Love?
That's a good question. I mean, so like there are only probably 2 Juneffer Lopez movies that will come into my mind unbidden. And it's Money Train and Enough, which okay. I guess a lot of people didn't care for, but I like it. And it's a good performance for her. But anyway, and I don't know, Money Train's just fun. It's just fun. It's hard to argue with talking about a fun movie for 2 hours.
I mean, I agree, of course. I think Money Train is fun. And like, despite its flaws and maybe its failures, like it being enjoyable is not something that I have a particular issue with. I mean, obviously, looking back at it with the benefit of hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, this movie is so 90s in so many particular ways that have not necessarily aged super well. But this movie also gets bonus points for being a sleeper Christmas movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So if you're looking for Christmas movies, yeah,
put it on my December list because I love unconventional Christmas movies. You know, right. I don't want to do the Hallmark Christmas all the time. You know, throw in a couple of those, but like, give me Die Hard, give me Lethal Weapon, give me Money Train.
Yeah, exactly. It's cut from that same cloth. And surprise, if you hang on long enough, it's also a New Year's movie. So you get the bonus out of that, too. And, you know, I think now is probably the best time where we'll set the table for the audience, since this is a little bit of an older movie. It's 30 years coming up. In November will be the 30th anniversary. This was produced by the John Peters, and it's an action comedy that reunited Wesley and Woody after their breakout success in White Man Can't Jump. And Money Train, while applying to the movie, also applies to their salaries for this, because they both took home big paychecks at the time. I think it was $5.5 million each for this. So clearly the studio and the producer invested in them as the reason to go see this movie. But the Money Train itself, however, the twist is that the real Money Trains in New York were not cinematically gorgeous. So they were just like pretty much basic trains, yellow and black stripes. And for the movie, they did modify a real R21 subway car, but they tricked it out with the silver armor and the flashing lights and the barred sliding doors that, make it look like a prison. And after filming, that was donated to the New York Transit Museum and stored at the Coney Island complex. They also used 4 additional subway R30s, which are used on actual MTA property, including the dramatic crash scene. But as you mentioned with the box office, despite all of the reasons that we enjoy this movie and went to see it or watched it on cable over and over again, the movie would earn only $35 million against its $68 million budget and was officially categorized as a bomb by USA Today. But that didn't happen until 10 years later by USA Today. So again, they're just looking, hey, this movie didn't make money. It's a bomb. But in addition to the bad reviews for the film, it also had some controversy because the film was vilified for the portrayal of the torch.
Right.
As there were several crimes mimicking the on-screen gasoline-wielding pyromaniac in real life after the film's premiere. And it definitely hurt the movie as there was calls for a boycott, including from the, at the time, presidential candidate Bob Dole.
Yeah, right.
And even Chris Cooper admitted some regret in participating in the film, which I think is not his fault. And he doesn't necessarily have anything to be regretful of other than, yeah, this was kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, it's terribly unfortunate. It's horrible. But I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with including that storyline in the movie. And it's just one of those things that's like, this is, humanity is awful today, kind of things. Like,
yeah.
I mean, should they have foreseen that this would happen? In which case, should we never have bad characters in movies? I mean, I don't think you could really make that argument. So I feel for obviously what happened, but I don't think Chris Cooper needs to feel bad about it.
Yeah, like some psycho decided to watch this and be like, hey, that's a great idea. Like, like you said, you can't, I think, confine yourself to the idea that anything that you ever put on screen is going to be sort of weaponized by a maniac, or else we're walking a very precarious line of maybe never making any kind of art because the fear of someone weaponizing it. And I don't necessarily want to live in that world. And it was not Chris Cooper's fault, He had nothing to do with the person who decided to do this. I mean, it is unfortunate that it happened in real life. If I read correctly, the attendant who was burned in real life actually passed away from the injuries. So I understand politically that you may, if you're one of those people who is like, hey, video games are the reason for violence in the world. Okay, if you're one of those kind of people, then of course you're going to be like, hey, well, here's a motion to get behind from Bob Dole in that let's go ahead and boycott this movie. But I think from the perspective of maybe like subway transit cops in New York, if they wanted to boycott the movie, I'd be like, that is understandable to me.
Definitely.
I wouldn't begrudge them.
Yeah, the whole thing sucks. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
People suck. It's terrible.
Unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. And it feels like it sort of just like put a stain on the movie that didn't necessarily deserve to be there, because that real life thing associated with it was happening after the film debuted. So it wasn't even like, months later, years later. It was like within a few days after it hitting theaters, because I'm sure it was popular like that first weekend because of who they are. So just a very unfortunate sequence of events that sort of led to some real life tragedy. And I mean, I don't want to be too like pun heavy, but kind of like derailed any momentum that this movie might have had otherwise, because all the press shifted from whether or not the movie's good to this is happening because of this movie. And that's a really hard thing to come back from.
Yeah, I do wonder in an alternate universe where there wasn't a shitty human doing a terrible thing, what the box office would have been.
I mean, it feels like the kind of movie that could have made its money back, but also feels like a kind of movie that was maybe like unnecessarily expensive, where you're kind of making it hard for it to earn its money back. So, like, you know, who knows what really would have happened, but it made like 10 million in its opening weekend, which is like not terrible by the standards of the time. So word of mouth could have helped, but I digress. We're going to switch to something more fun, hopefully.
Yes, most of this movie is fun, so the discussion's going to be fun now that we've gotten past the terrible.
Yeah, well, in the name of due diligence, of course, I'm going to talk about the shitty side of things as well. And we'll get back to some other shitty things as well.
No, Stephanie, there's always shitty things to talk about. What are you saying?
But we will have fun in the process of doing it. Did you prepare a synopsis haiku for this by any chance?
I did.
Oh, awesome. Do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first because then I won't feel horrible while reading mine because it sucks in comparison to yours.
Okay.
See, logic. Okay. All right, my haiku. Brotherhood tested. Fix your life or die trying. Rob the money train.
Okay, I like that.
Not a whole lot of synopsis in there, but to the point.
Look, the movie's called Money Train. I think people get the gist. Although to me, I was like, this kind of like falls short of being a heist movie, although there is kind of a heist involved. But I know that there's going to be money and a train involved, and those are big focal points of the movie, in fairness. Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about that at some point, the heist aspect. But now I want to hear your haiku. All right, let's go. So what I got here, brothers with badges, love triangle, big trouble, plan goes off the tracks. Like it. I went back to the train pun. I couldn't help myself. Yes. Train puns are good, man. I mean, there's like one of the, characters working in the transit office says something about sidetracking a train. And I'm like, that's where that word comes from. So like, there are so many good things you can take out of like train pun kind of land. So yeah. Well, speaking of fun pun stuff, did you write a limerick for this? I didn't. I tried. I just my brain wouldn't deliver this time. I couldn't come up with a good rhyming word, and so. But did you? I did. Okay. I did. I'm looking for it. All right. Well, I figured I was like, I got to do it, right? I was like, even though I didn't ask you, we didn't talk about it. I figured I was like, as long as I have time, I'll do it. Okay. In New York, there were brothers-in-law who often got punched in the jaw. Once they were no longer cops, the money train couldn't stop, and the cash was theirs to withdraw. Ah, love it. That's a good one. I was like trying to rhyme cops, and I was trying to rhyme brothers, and my brain was just like, nope, does not compute this time. So, but yours is lovely. Love it. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know which way. Once I wrote the first line, I was just like, well, now I'm stuck. I just got to figure out how to sequence it after that. Because what do I do? You could go with like, oh, there once was a pair of brothers. One of them felt very smothered. Yeah, and then something and something. Yeah. Yeah. And like, I'm a freak in that I try really hard to avoid imperfect rhymes. So if I had said they were cops, that really limits, because then I would have had to say bops, stops, flops, and it just wasn't working. Yeah, so. I had to be a little loosey goosey with it. It's like I didn't use stops. I initially had it down that way, but then I was like, wait a second, the train doesn't stop; it actually crashes. So I was like, that. Yes, yeah. It's you would, yeah. Couldn't justify it. So, cool. Well, we'll get back doing limericks once we get the Bi-Mon-Sci-Fi-Con starship up and running again. But why would you speculate that somebody would say that this is in fact a bad movie.
Okay. The plot's a little kind of back and forth and a little unfocused. That would be one of my criticisms. I don't know if is a good reason that most people would have for saying it's a bad movie, but like the whole subplot of the torch kind of is like doesn't really integrate that well into the rest of the narrative. I think I like it, but it sort of doesn't really fit. But I like it, so don't take it out. Possibly it's too cliche a 90s action movie, but again, that's a reason I really like it. This is hard for me to analyze because overall I disagree. I don't think it's a bad movie. So, how about you?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie. In rewatching it, I would say that the movie's called Money Train, but that actual part of the plot is like maybe only the final act. There's like some teaser stuff in Act 2 with the Money Train, but for the most part, like almost the first 40 minutes of the movie kind of like are irrelevant, like to what the movie ends up becoming. It's all just kind of like background noise and texture. It's like we get New York, we get that they're cops, they introduce a love interest, they're kind of like rebels, so we see that too. So it's kind of just like going through the motions of what the movie ultimately wants to be. And like we said, it doesn't end up really becoming a heist movie, so there isn't like the procedural planning that we see in other heist movies of like we gotta recruit the team and this is how we're gonna map things out. And it's kind of paired against the Robert Blake character being a pinstripe supervillain.
Yes.
And that's crazy in its own way. But I saw Robert Blake said that it's in an interview and he's like, yeah, my guy's not really a bad guy. He's not really a good guy. And I was like, excuse me, sir? I was like, your character is 100% a bad guy, and you play him like he's a Batman villain. What are you talking about?
Cartoon level villainy,
yes.
Which is one of the things I kind of like about this movie.
I mean, I forgot like how insane his character is in this movie, but every time he's on screen, I'm just like, what? This is nuts. I was like, how did this get into this movie? It feels so out of place. But if Batman is Wesley Snipes and Robin is Woody Harrelson and Robert Blake is the Penguin, like it all makes sense.
Yes, I love it. Let's have a remake doing it that way.
Yeah, look, I'm not opposed to it, but let's go back and take a look at the trailer from 1995 and we will see what this was sold as, because I want to see how heavily it leans into like the comedy versus the action. This trailer rewind is brought to you by Stellar Lopez. The future of decentralized digital currency is finally here with the altcoin that's worth the risk. Tired of investing in coins that never give you the full fantasy? Step into the future with Stellar Lopez, the altcoin that doesn't just rise, it shimmers. Built on decentralized emotional blockchain, Stellar Lopez delivers ultra-secure, high-glam liquidity powered by a hybrid proof-of-icon protocol. That's right, every transaction is verified by an archived red carpet moment. Stake your love, swap your pain, burn your old coins, and mint something fierce. Stellar Lopez. Don't just diversify your portfolio. Diversify your aura. You can buy and sell Stellar Lopez on all digital exchanges, and it's accepted across the entire New York public transit system. Not licensed by the SEC, the IRS, or Pitbull, market volatility may cause unexpected flash mobs, emotional NFTs sold separately. And now, back to the show. What is like the Woody share? What is the J-Lo share on this?
I want to know if it has...
Sorry, it's a little loud. You can talk. It's okay.
It's Christmas in New York. A time
yes,
for giving,
90s trailer voice guy.
time for peace.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's rumble.
But beneath the streets,
Come on, Grandma.
for two transit cops,
You know, this
Christmas
job can
and
be hazardous
cops.
to your health.
it's no holiday.
They say you guys are the best.
Puns. Look, I was right on track with those puns.
Prevents me from... Well, no, it doesn't. We are the best.
They're not just partners. They're family.
This is your brother?
I see the resemblance.
Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud.
Love that part.
I mean, it does take a special kind of person to do this job.
You're not gonna hit him. Why not? Because I'm gonna hit him.
Someone with
Yeah.
dedication,
Perseverance.
courage.
Cojones.
I am getting excited.
You just always got to be the coolest. You always got to be the smartest. You got to be the guy who gets the girl.
Let's see what you got now.
You're a bad gambler.
Also, salsa
son, Jim.
dancing in the alley.
You're in debt up to your eyeballs.
I have to look after my brother.
I can understand about you and your brother. What I'm not understanding is what's going on between you and me.
You brought the money, right?
Yeah, it's $300.
Hey, mother owes Mr. Brown $15,000.
Mother.
15,000?
They didn't want to cut that to, like, your brother.
Drop it.
They made their reputation by being on the edge.
You want me to admit I have a problem? Okay, I have a minute problem.
Minute. John Bobby, he has a minute problem. You have a sickness.
But now,
You're a disgrace
script
to this
is crazy.
organization. You're a wreck looking for someplace to happen.
one of
There
them
we go.
is about
Train
to
metaphor.
step over the line.
Love
3-4 million at least. You know what we could do with that kind of money?
We're not gonna rob the money train.
Why not?
Because we're cops.
Charlie is going down, and you are the only family that he's got.
Wesley.
Yep. Wesley in his
Woody.
leather jacket.
Juneffer.
Nope, she doesn't even get named in the trailer.
Yeah, well, because we don't know her yet.
Yep.
It's an M16's rapid fire at 30 meters.
What the hell are we gonna do? We can't stop this thing even if we wanted to. Go faster.
Go faster.
Very speed.
Out of the way. Money train.
I always find it funny when the trailers include lots of dialogue that's not in the final film, which I understand why that happens, but I always pick it out because I'm so keyed in to like the original dialogue, and when I see them and I'm like, it's, hey, this is cool. It's something new.
It's a solid trailer for what the movie
I think
is. It feels like it's maybe ultimately kind of tugged in too many directions, and that there is like this sort of romantic, personal love triangle, brother story going on that is kind of what fuels the identity of the movie. And then it like breaks out into a train action movie in the final act. Because it's, other than a couple of like the cop sequences where they're arresting somebody, it's not really like an action movie until definitely the second half and probably like the last act of the film. Because we see like Woody get beat up a few times. We see them like chasing a guy on the platform, but I don't think there's any gunfire really until there's all of a sudden like machine guns everywhere. And I don't even know what the point of that was. You're shooting an armored train like just for sport.
Yeah. Like what are you thinking you're gonna do? And
I don't know.
Also, if they had, killed, say, every robber or whatever in the train with the machine guns, they would have then had to deal with just a runaway train. And how do you stop? I don't know. I don't feel like they logicked super well on their police action there.
They didn't necessarily, but, I think that's why I think the identity of the movie about them being brothers is like, it's trying to capitalize on what White Man Can't Jump did well, is that they have this personal relationship where, there is tension, but they respect each other. And one of them is sort of irresponsible with money, and that's causing issues for the other one. And so I like making sort of Wesley like the big brother here and making Woody sort of like the childish fuck up. But I don't want Wesley to punch me in the face. So we'll say that he is challenged in terms of responsibility. But, you know, it makes their dynamic work. It's hard for me to believe that Woody's character is a cop sometimes, because it's like you're in with loan sharks, you're gambling, like
I felt that about both of them.
You probably should be dead several times. Like you owe them $15,000. They're not just going to like punch you.
Yeah, I felt that about both of them. Like Wesley's character, he's constantly saying we're cops, but then he doesn't really act super coppish when they're not, you know, on duty. Like he pisses on a car when they're walking home drunk. Like I don't know. I didn't get the feeling from either of them that they were like extremely invested in their identities as cops. Just
I agree.
More like a day job kind of thing.
Yeah, which makes the moment at the end where he's like, after everything that's happened, and he finally is like, I've had enough. Like, you're going to cost me like my badge and my job. It's like, wait a second. Like, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, he's done so many worse things to you at this point.
Not the losing the $15,000 that like the moment you handed it to him, basically.
Horrible decision.
That wasn't his fault. I feel so bad for him in that.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about that, because in watching it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like innocent that he got hit by the pickpocket, and it's kind of like a switcheroo, and that he catches the other pickpocket but doesn't notice the one that robbed him on the train. But also, like, if you're John, you're giving someone who you know is a horrible gambler, who loses money all the time, who's horribly irresponsible, who you 100% cannot trust with money, as you have been shown earlier in the film when you gave him money and he gambled it and got in trouble and you were ready to like drop him off the side of a building. In what world does John hand him an envelope with $15,000 cash in it? Be like, we're going together right now, or I'm going to go pay your bookie off. And it's like, of course, we needed the scene with the pickpocketing and stuff, but I feel like John sort of is a victim of his own naivety when it comes to his brother a little bit, because it's like he knows all of his flaws and is constantly critical of him for it, but then is like, okay, well, we're trying to pay off your debt so you don't die. We don't want the mob to kill you. So here's 15,000. I trust that you're going to do the right thing. Why? John, why do you trust him to do this? There's no reason for you. You've established in the film that you don't trust him.
Yes. And yeah, John has some questionable moments. Like, so after the bad guy fires Charlie, then, you know, John comes up and the bad guy calls Charlie a fuck up, and John's like, you can't say that about my brother. I love him so much. I have to defend his honor. I'm going to curse at you and get fired myself. And then be so upset and blame Charlie for ruining my life that I'm cutting him out of my life. I love my brother so much. I have to defend his honor, but he is dragging me down, so I have to cut him out of my life. Those two things are kind of incongruous. But
I agree. And in that scene, it's just one of many where Robert Blake is like completely unhinged. It's like he's in a totally different movie, like we talked about. But as they're arguing, he tells Wesley, take a bite out of me.
Yeah.
You'll be licking your asshole for a month to get the taste out of your mouth. And I'm just
Great
like,
line.
This dude is freaking nuts. Like the first introduction to him, he's like very cavalier with his racism towards the two brothers. And he says, is someone trying to jack me off? And like, this is like a work meeting, sir. Like, we're going to have to report you to HR. But in that same scene, like he's talking to them, he says, we will tangle ass and you will lose. And I'm not sure what tangling ass is, but I imagine it's not a good thing.
He seems like he's just a little bit off in all of his, like, you know, trying to be tough talk. And like when he says, I'll fuck you dead.
Right? I'll
And then
fuck you dead.
My favorite thing is after that, when, Woody and Wesley are like, do you think he wants to fuck us before we're dead or after we're dead? I understood it as when we're dead, that's when he wants to fuck us. Either way, it's pain in the ass. Just great dialogue.
Yeah, John calls him a necrophiliac in a suit at one point after that conversation as well. And it's just so nuts to me that this character exists within the framework of this film. He's got so many crazy lines. Another one that I love was, "Hey, sweet pea, how's your cock working now that you ain't got that badge no more?" And I'm like, what?
We're getting a little personal here.
Yeah, like he's so like obsessed with these two for some reason. And then he delivers that line to Wesley and then spits in his face.
Right.
Like, you're the guy who runs the New York like transit system, right? Like, you smoke cigars in your office like you're a mafia boss. You basically threaten to kill people. You pretty much make it known that you're like, you will literally kill them given the chance. Like, he's a cross between, like Kingpin from like the Spider-Man universe, like Punisher, Daredevil, and like the Penguin from Batman. And I'm like, he's so over the top. I'm really glad that like his performance is crazy, because it definitely made watching the movie this time stand out in a different way. Like, growing up with it, it was all about sort of like the Woody and the Wesley of it. And then it was like, oh yeah, like this is like one of J-Lo's first movies. So this to me never until this time was like, oh my God, this is a movie where Robert Blake is stealing every scene that he's in because he's a total maniac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's definitely provides a lot of the comedy kind of step back, and it's a comedy aspect.
Yeah, he plays it so like straight laced that like the intensity that he delivers the performance with isn't in line with this sort of casual line delivery and comedy that Wesley and Woody are bringing to the table. Because like J-Lo's not really trying to be funny in the movie, right? She's playing the character fairly straight, but there's a lot of tongue in cheek in the way that Wesley and Woody talk to each other. Like, they're getting mugged on the street, right? Right. It's a great scene because they're just arguing as brothers, and they're about to get robbed at gunpoint, and they're cops, so they pull out their guns when asked to hand over their wallets, and then they just start arguing with one another and end up pointing their guns at each other, to the point where the robbers are like, well, these two are clearly nuts, and end up leaving. And so like they have a lot of fun with stuff like that. And he asks him right after that too. Like, he's like, were you going to shoot me? He's like, no, of course not. he asks Woody, like, were you going to shoot me? He's like, no. And then he says, well, you had that Alabama look in your eye. And Woody says something like, well, if I had a fire hose. And I'm like, I was like, wow. They're like, just like, that's very 90s of it. Sort of like the casual racial stuff that is just dumped into the movie.
That's one of those things that I don't think I got the first 50 times I watched the film. Like, not until I was older and like revisiting, and I'm like, oh, whoa, okay. We're going there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a point in the writing that is similar to the joke about John Bobbitt, right? Where Woody says, like, I have a minute problem. And Wesley tells him, he's like, no, John Bobbitt has a minute problem. So, yeah, you talk about a guy who had his dick cut off. So like it's that style of humor, though, where it's like it's happening pretty fast in the course of the delivery. So it's not even stuff that you're necessarily like meant to catch as the funniest, because it's not written to the point where it's a punchline. Even in the scene where they're talking about sort of Alabama racism and hosing, black people down with fire hoses. Like, this is a very sort of like dark bit of humor, but it's also delivered while the camera is like panning away from them and they're walking away in shadow. So it's not meant to be like the punchline delivery. It's like the development of the casual style of humor that exists between a black and white brother who have grown up both in sort of like this New York environment. You know, you get Woody saying I'm black and I'm proud at one point, which just like doesn't really fit with what's happening. But it's like at the time that the movie, I guess, is written is passable for what they're doing. Like, I don't know that John really feels that way. It feels like there's more under the surface there than like the movie actually gets to, because there is a moment where John walks up to the bar and there's another black guy at the bar talking to him, and he's kind of like asking him about having a white brother and commenting on the like his blackness, right? And the way that John sort of operates is that he defends his blackness to this guy who's like a stranger to him, kind of. They might even be like casual acquaintances, but he basically is like, oh yeah, he's my brother, but he's kind of like not really my brother. So he's like downplaying his relationship with him because he's like kind of embarrassed about it. And then as he walks away, the guy at the bar tells him stay black, and he just kind of like laughs off, and he's like, I don't really have a choice. So it's like the handling of, I think, racial identity of this movie is a little stuck in that era. And it's a conversation that, you know, we've had in Film Club when we were doing like our Black History Month, and talked about sort of the way that there was this idea that kind of, for like kids growing up with the 90s, so like kids of our generation being grown up, sort of being told passively that we're in a post-racial America. And so I think these kinds of scripts and dialogue being written about Black identity and Black culture by white writers is something that permeated sort of that 90s era filmmaking. And I think that is maybe like, I understand like the notion to want to have these two guys be brothers, but I feel like maybe reaching into racial identity is a little bit further than this movie had the actual language to communicate. Yeah.
And so this sort of thing, Black Brother, White Brother, was done again recently in the Michael Bay action movie Ambulance.
Correct.
And it's interesting now that you've brought, laid all that out, thinking of it in my head. We'll see how much I can get out of my head and into the words. How it doesn't kind of do it the same way. Like, there's other characters comment on, hey, he doesn't look like your brother, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And from then on, it's not really, I don't know, it's not played for effect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perhaps if Michael Bay had made that movie in the 90s, that would have
been different.
Yeah. Well, there's also this thing that goes on in that movie where I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal is like a horrible brother from the beginning. And I'm just like, he's terrible. Like, it's all manipulative gaslighting bullshit from him. So I feel like he's played in a much like different light towards his brother than we get here, where I feel like Woody is sincere in his affection, but also is grappling with being in John's shadow. And even the way that he handles that conversation is very, very close to just telling John, like, you're so cool because you're Black and I'm white. Like, he almost, like, if he would have said that in that moment in the film, it would have been like, oh yeah, that tracks with like where this conversation is going. Like, there's no awareness from Woody's character writing that John is a Black man in America, and that comes with like a whole slew of things that Woody is not paying attention to. He's just like, well, you're like the better athlete and you're cool and you get girls, and it's like just completely missing the mark. And so, with the benefit of looking backwards 30 years, I feel like Woody and Wesley have a good relationship, right? And I think if they're really friends, then that understanding is a lot closer in real life. But to put that into the movie is crazy, especially when you're talking to like a black cop as well. You know, like John probably had to work really hard to get where he is. You know, he doesn't have the benefit of being the kind of fuck up that Woody is in that, or that Charlie is. And, you know, he's still the one bailing his ass out at the end. So I feel like that is where, like, the more I watch 90s movies now is where I see like there's a lot of sort of messiness with how those characters are written. And I think from just like a screenplay perspective, it is coming from a place where there's this idea that like, oh yeah, like racism isn't a real thing anymore, and we're living in this post-racial America, and so we're just gonna have like the script written to sort of highlight the things that we want to highlight. But yeah, that conversation where he's like super jealous of him is like, wow, this is like, it's not, I don't feel like the intent is to be like, hey, we're overtly racist, but I feel like in application, like it's definitely walking in that territory somewhere, like without maybe being super aware of that. But then you get the Robert Blake character and it's like, excuse me? I'm like, is this movie just outright racist the entire time? Because when you go to Juneffer Lopez, like she's very happy to come onto the movie and represent like her culture, and listening to interviews with her talking about her position in the movie, she spoke very much about the importance of representation. And I forgot the filmmaker that she mentioned, but she's like, there's not enough filmmakers like this person who are casting like only, you know, Latin actresses and actors for their roles. And so she felt that it was like very important to have this character represent the way that she is on the film. And obviously Robert Blake being the villain, him saying sort of like casually racist things sort of lines up, right? Where I think he even says, he's like, oh, he's like, you have a Dominican or Puerto Rican sister. So he's like, it's like the full trifecta. Yeah. Which she busts his balls on later. So like for him, it makes sense. But I feel like there may be just something in the structure of the film that is like, okay, it's okay to have fun with Robert Blake doing that without really realizing maybe why that they felt that it was okay to do that, and also sort of frame it with the two brothers.
It's definitely one of those things that it represents the time in which it was made. And you have to watch it kind of with that in mind. So, it's, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to navigate sometimes, especially because attitudes are always changing. And if you're trying to deal with a heavy subject with any kind of lightness or in any kind of a casual way, there's always the chance you're going to get it wrong. And especially like as thinking evolves, there's going to be something that you didn't get quite right. So,
yeah, hindsight is 20/20.
It sure is. How do you feel like this movie deals with race as compared to White Men Can't Jump?
That's a good question. I mean, I think structurally it's very similar in that, like, you have Rosie Perez as the third part of that triangle, and I think that movie is framed more directly in its framework for like the conversation is sort of like open about racism, but in a very casual way. Like the name of the movie is White Man Can't Jump. Like if the name of this movie was like Black Man is Cop, like you'd be having like a very different kind of, I think, story. But in White Man Can't Jump, like the way it's doing it casually and lightly is by sort of turning the idea of racism against the white character. It's like he's being prejudiced against because, oh, he's not able to dunk a basketball. But again, that's coming from a place of like real racism when black players were taking over the NBA, and there was a large pushback to that. So it's still coming from, I think, a similar place, but it's handled, I think, better in the sense that it's a much more personal story that revolves around these characters like needing to hustle. And at the end of the day, like Woody's actually very good at basketball. So he doesn't even need to dunk. And it's kind of just like whether or not he jumps, like they win, so still the weird sort of casual post-racial 90s or like, quote unquote post-racial 90s. But in this movie in particular, in Money Train, like if they don't have the scene at the bar where you're like really bringing Wesley's identity of blackness onto the screen and into the script, then maybe I don't even think about it in the same way, because I never really did with this movie. Like I always kind of was aware of like, they're pulling from this other movie that existed. You're obviously pairing a black guy and a white guy together to sort of, you're going to have some barbs going back and forth. I expect there to be like some cultural like ribbing going back and forth between the two of them. It's Wesley and Woody. Like this is something I expect. But to have that scene at the bar where he's essentially like questioning his blackness by having a white brother, like it seems intentional. And I think it actually is like sort of an interesting thread to pull at in the story, but it doesn't really go beyond that at any point. So to ask it and to put it in the movie and to make me think about it sort of put me onto a different thought process than when I had grown up watching this movie, being like, oh yeah, they're brothers and they're just like, they're here to bust each other's balls as brothers. And it's not so much about race. I feel like watching it now, there was definitely a more decided notion of race being a key part of the story. But now knowing that the original screenwriter, was not the only writer on the project, then it kind of makes sense. And having a little bit more background information that I will get to in a little bit, I want to save some of it for, the trivia and bonus trivia, which I think will shed some light on some of the things that I'm talking about. But I don't know if it handles race better or worse than White Men Can't Jump. Probably if I really wanted to do the research and put in hours and hours and hours of watching like 90s movies that sort of fall into a similar category of stuff that doesn't quite know how to grapple with the current racial reality, you probably could make an interesting like documentary on the subject. I wouldn't be the one to make it, but I was like, yeah, and I would just be like, yeah, this is not my place to like make this documentary, but I think there is something there and somebody would be able to do it.
Yeah.
There might even be a documentary.
Story to be drawn out, things to consider. Definitely. Yeah. The racial depictions and storyline between White Men Can't Jump and Money Train, White Men Can't Jump is obviously, like you said, more overtly race tension related. Yes. But it gets away with it better because it others the white guy, and that's a little safer to handle. There's not, I don't feel like there's much, I don't know. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of having to grapple with what it means to be black, but just what it means to be not black. I don't. Whereas for Money Train, I feel like the racial sub story is sort of shoehorned in. Like this movie wouldn't change substantially if it were two black cops who were foster brothers or two white cops who were foster brothers. It's kind of ancillary to the story, and maybe only done because they wanted these two actors together again, and at that point they felt like they couldn't not make a comment about the fact that they don't appear to be brothers. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess like when you're writing the script, they're like, well, if anybody's going to say it, like, of course, like the evil Batman villain is going to be the one to bring it up. So
yes, good choice to have him throw it out immediately.
Well, do you want to do some trivia right now? Because I feel like we sort of walked ourselves over there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Time for trivia.
All right. So let's see. What do we got? So question number 1. Woody and Wesley, most famously, were in White Men Can't Jump prior to Money Train, but they actually had another movie before that that they starred in together. Do you know what that is?
I don't, but I know that it happened, and it was in like 89 or something like that.
Pretty close, yeah.
It's 88, but it's a movie that I was not familiar with, so it didn't stick in my mind.
Fair enough. That movie is Wildcats from 1986. So 6 years prior to White Men Can't Jump. And it was interesting that in listening to some of the interviews and watching some of the featurette stuff on Money Train, that basically the reason that Wesley and Woody were like in this movie is because it was an opportunity for them to work together again. And that was kind of like the catalyst for all of this happening. So makes sense that they wanted to do it. It was the last time that they would work together, though, I think.
Well, so far.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They should do it again.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I mean, if they were going to make another White Man Can't Jump, might as well have been those two again, playing like, hey, we're 50-year-olds still hustling for basketball money.
Both men can't jump.
Right? Yeah. I would have preferred that to the Hulu rebranding with Jack Harlow, which we will not speak of again. Okay, so question number 2, we've got Joseph Ruben ended up in the director's chair, but the movie was originally developed by screenwriter Doug Richardson. And what director?
No, you're asking me questions that I know it's buried somewhere in my brain. I feel like it's somebody whose first name is Tony.
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't recall.
He's a famous Tony, and he's got a famous brother.
What the hell?
You remember my dog's name?
Well, it wasn't Tony Scott.
It was Tony Scott.
Well, then really why didn't that stick in my brain? Because I know Tony Scott. Oh, yeah, that makes, yeah.
Yeah, well, like Tony Scott, I think being a longtime collaborator with Denzel Washington, and given the nature of the movie that we're talking about, developing the film with that in mind. But then when Scott left the project and Ruben came on, he fired Richardson and brought in the other writer. What can I not think of his name? David Loughrey. He brought in Loughrey and rewrote the script. So I feel like that has like a direct impact on the kind of movie that it ends up being, and the type of stuff that we were just talking about in terms of how it handles its sort of racial identity of its characters.
Yeah, Tony Scott eventually got to do his Runaway Train movie with Unstoppable. So
yeah,
but
which has Denzel Washington, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
it's a good one. That's who's the white boy in that?
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. That's right.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
I watched it again recently. I enjoy it.
I say white boy like I am also not a white boy, but it's the easiest way for me to get it across. So, all right, question number 3. Actually, wait a second. Before that, this is a question I've always wanted to ask everybody that's come on the show, and I've just never done it because I was like, it doesn't feel like it's the right time or place ever.
Okay.
What are your Chris rankings? So Pine, Pratt, Hemsworth, and Evans.
I'm going to say Hemsworth is first. And I don't know whether that's because I think he's like a better actor or because he's really fucking hot. I don't know. He's my favorite Chris.
That's fine.
Probably Chris Pine might be second, but I think he's a really good actor. I think is what I think of when I think of him. And I definitely enjoyed him as Kirk in the newer Star Trek movies. He played that well. And I don't know. I think maybe Evans is next, but he and Pratt are towards the bottom of the list.
Gotcha.
I don't like the Captain America character. So I don't like Chris Evans when he's playing, super duper clean cut, Boy Scout kind of character, which he does. I feel like he does it a couple of times. But when you get him in something a little bit different, you can see he's got decent range.
Yeah, he was good on that Apple series. Was it something about Jacob, where he plays the father. He was good as the douchey boyfriend in, why can I not think of it? The Michael Cera like action video gamey movie with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I know a lot of things about it. They just made an animated series about Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He's good as the douchey boyfriend in that. I'm curious to see what he's going to do in Materialist opposite Pedro and Dakota Johnson. But yeah, that was just I was like, I think it would be a good icebreaker to get Chris rankings from everybody. Maybe when we do the first time on the show, it'll be a good one. But I was like, you know what? I don't think I've only ever talked about Chris Pine once ever on the show. And I don't know that any of the other Chris's have made it onto the show at this point. So
yeah, you did Don't Worry, Darling, didn't you?
Correct. And I should have asked Hans at that point, what are your Chris rankings?
Yeah, that's a very different character than the early Chris portrayals.
Yeah, I like him kind of as like a villain, or at least a character who's like got some issues going on. Like he did The Pool Man a year ago, which is like not a good movie at all, but like it's so weird. I feel like it's worth watching just to see like the experience of what it's like to just have a movie wash over you in a way that doesn't like make you feel good or make you feel bad or really have a ton going on in terms of like emotional context. But it's a fascinating movie in a strange way. I don't know that I would say it's good though. Sorry, Chris, but Pine would be at the top of the Pine food chain. Although Hemsworth has done a good job of sort of like winning me over with other roles. I think like in Furiosa, he was excellent. So like the more stuff he gets to do that isn't Thor, I think we'll really see what he can do. I like Bad Times at the El Royale. I really liked him as well.
Yeah, and sitting here, my brain is not even coming up with any non-Thor credit of his. So I don't know. Maybe I just like him because he's hot.
Look, that's fair. Look, you're entitled to rank them however you want. I just was like, you know what? I heard Chris Pine. I've wanted to do this for like 3 years. So yeah, let's make it happen.
Chris ranking's subject to change. So
yeah, okay. Not locked in forever. But yes, question number 3 on the trivia. So the actual money trains used by the New York subway system were retired in what year?
The actual money trains. Oh, that's probably okay. They would have been retired because the payment system changed. Let's say this is just going to be a guess, but 99.
2006.
Oh, wow. I was way off.
Yeah, well, as you know, electronic payment became more readily available, as you mentioned, you didn't have the need for a money train carrying millions of dollars of transit coin around the subway. And I honestly I would hazard a guess that people didn't even know that there was a money train until the movie Money Train happened. And so once it happened, people are like, you know, it might be a good idea to actually rob the money train.
When I rewatched for this discussion, it sent me down the rabbit hole of payment methods on the New York metro system. Because I was like, okay, so this was 95 and like they're still paying with tokens. When did the Metro card, start? And then like I was just in New York in April. So they have this new like Omni system where it's super easy. You can just tap your credit card or nice. Apple Pay or whatever. And there's no such thing as Metro cards anymore. And I'm like, this is just, this takes a lot of the pressure off me figuring out how I'm going to pay to get around. But anyway, so yes, I took a deep dive down the rabbit hole about the entire payment system on the New York City subways and buses.
Did they accept Stellar Lopez coins?
They should. They were a little off the ball on that one.
Yeah, they missed. And the last time that I was in New York using the subway system, the ticket that I got was still paper. which is crazy because our LA subway system is so small and embarrassing compared to the New York subway system. But we've had tap cards here for like a reloadable plastic card for a long time. So when we went to New York and went to the station to get tickets, and I was like, this is like a piece of paper with a magnetic stripe on it. I was just like so confused that somehow New York was still like operating on something that was like older technology, but it worked just fine and we were good. So had no issues with it.
So do you want to hear about a subway system that's sad and embarrassing and tiny?
Sure. Why not? We're talking about subways. Let's go.
Glasgow, Scotland. It's actually the third oldest subway system in the world. But you know what it is? It's a circle.
Oh, okay.
It's a circle with like, I don't know, a dozen stops maybe. And it's this teeny tiny little car in this very small little tube. And it's compared to, you know, the ground train system, which is extensive and will get you anywhere in Scotland. It's quite sad, but I did love it and use it all the time in the year that I lived there. So, and it's also, it's quite cheap because it's, you know, basic.
Yeah.
So.
My sister just went to Scotland. I'll have to ask her if she rode the tiny subway train.
Yeah.
Did you ride in a circle?
Exactly. But the good thing about that is if you get on going the wrong direction, you're still going to get to where you need to go. There's no way to take the wrong train.
Don't worry, we'll be back.
Take the short train or the longer train.
Well, speaking of short and long trains, how about that segue? This entire subway set was built in Los Angeles. You know, I'm looking at it like that looks like New York subway system. But no, this was constructed on like a 4,000 square foot track where they could control everything in LA. And at the time, it was at least according to John Peters, he said it was the largest set ever built. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't have a rankings of like biggest sets ever built, but it seems like if you need to build an entire subway system with like real trains that can move and that you need to crash and all of the above, then you probably don't want to do that inside the active New York City subway station. So yeah, they built it in LA and they actually shipped real subway cars from New York to LA and converted the trains to run on propane so that they didn't have to electrify the rails because that would be a little bit too hazardous. And I'm sure Cal OSHA was not going to be on board with that.
Yeah. When I read that, though, I was like, does propane not come with its own issues?
Explodiness?
That, and is there some sort of exhaust with propane? But I'm not sure. So, but that was just my I don't know. I don't have extensive experience with propane, but like propane heaters and stuff, they always caution you about using them inside and how you can like die.
I mean, I think when they're used improperly, they're of course hazardous. There's been some like wildfires that have broken out here because of propane tanks that have exploded and caused large fires. So I think there is hazards to that. But for the most part, I mean, if you trust Hank Hill, it's very safe and clean burning fuel.
That makes sense. And it just occurred to me, my gas logs in my fireplace are propane. So, Steph, they're okay. Calm down.
I mean, I guess if you're not just like constantly breathing propane, you know, over time, you'll probably be all right. But yes, as with any propellant, I'm sure there is a risk of explosion. But yeah, you couldn't electrify the tracks inside. And but speaking of John Peters, he apparently wrestled Robert Blake when they first met for this movie because he wanted to see if Blake would lose his temper, which is weird because that means that Robert Blake definitely had like a reputation of somebody that would lose his temper, which then fast forward a bunch of years to Robert Blake murdering his wife.
Blake was arrested for his wife's murder, but ultimately acquitted. However, he was found liable in a civil trial of intentionally causing her death and was ordered to pay $30 million to her children.
Mm.
this movie's got some dark history connected to it. I didn't really plan with like, hey, we're going to talk about this Juneffer Lopez movie and we're going to like get into the nitty gritty of sort of like racial inequality and representation on film and Robert Blake, the psychopathic murderer. So he actually, at least the place where it happened, is not too far from where I live. I drive by it a lot. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So watching a film with Robert Blake and seeing his performance and being like kind of enamored by how insane he is and actually enjoying the performance for as psychotic as it is and being like, oh yeah, this guy, I could see him maybe being a little unhinged.
Yeah, that's going to change the way I view that character now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like, I had that going into it, so it's like, can't really undo that. But I feel like we got to like put all the cards on the table and talking about this movie and not beat around the bush. So I watched some interviews with J-Lo around the time that this movie was coming out, and it's like, she was young. This was like her first big budget Hollywood feature. This was realistically, I think, probably her breakout role, right? But she is represented as a sex symbol here. And in a lot of the press where she's promoting the film, she speaks like pretty glowingly about it. And I think it makes sense. And then as it turns out, there's a sex scene in this movie that she didn't really enjoy and spoke very poorly of later on. But it was interesting to watch the first interview where she talks about it and she kind of like, what is she going to say in the moment where she's promoting the movie and she's on like Access Hollywood for the first time and she's at the gym and like she's kind of cornered. She's not really going to be like try to submarine her own movie. So she handles it, I think, as well as she could. And then there was an interview she did with SAG, I think probably within the last 10 years. I didn't see the date on it, but I remember hearing the story recently, so I'm not exactly sure recency wise, but she detailed feeling violated in a love scene that was added to the script after production had started. She said that the scene was added at the behest of the star, who wielded a lot of power at the time. And she describes being naked and being groped, and like the only thing between them was like a sock on his boner. And while she doesn't name the movie or the actor, like if you just line up the pieces that she does give you, it's definitely this movie that she's talking about. And that's a really shitty thing to hear and sort of change the way that like I approached that part of this movie. And, it's unfortunate to hear about Wesley too. And then seeing the interviews with him at the time, I mean, he was in like full Hollywood movie star mode, and reading the details of the sort of interview with J-Lo, and that the justification behind it was, you want to do this because you don't want to become the person that's like difficult to work with. Like you don't want to get a reputation kind of thing, was like, it's all of the dirty, disgusting, slimy kind of horrible things that you hear about men in power, and particularly in Hollywood, that use their position to like make women do sex scenes that are not necessary in the first place. And so to know that is gross.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't know that she felt that way about this scene. And that's very, very unfortunate.
I don't know. I don't remember when the first time I heard it was. It must have been within the last couple of years that like I clocked it somewhere on social media, and then I just sort of read the quotes that were pulled from the interview, and it's like, yeah, she doesn't say that it was him, but in terms of sex scenes where she's fully naked and it's early in her career and the script was rewritten like in after the movie started filming, I was like, okay, there's way too many things that line up that point in this direction. So she may have even gone on to name Wesley in that interview. I would have to like look it up in more detail, but it wasn't as easy to find as I thought it would be, because when I had first heard about it, I was like, oh, this is a big deal. And then I went, and as I was looking for that article for the purposes of the show, I was like, like I'm not finding it as easily as I thought. But I did feel like I got a good amount of behind the scenes stuff in general for this movie.
Yeah. Well, that's, gosh, thanks for ruining something else in the movie for me, Nick.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But that, honestly, that scene was always one that I really enjoyed. And that sounds weird, but I mean, I was like, 11 years old and
that sounds even weirder.
Okay, shut up. I don't know. I mean, like, people talk sometimes about like what their sexual awakening was or whatever. Yeah. I remember being intrigued by that scene. How about, and the love story between the two of them in the film was something the way they developed it, and like the scene with when they're, sparring together in the boxing ring, like that's something that I revisited in my mind. And anyway, I don't know. I wonder if the movie would have had a different impact for me if that scene had just been implied rather than depicted. But that was my first porn, man. Listen, I'll just drop the pretense and lay that out. And now all the listeners know me way better than they need to.
I know, and this isn't one that's on the paid subscription tier either. This is going out to the public.
The whole world.
To the entire world that listens to the show, at least. Yeah, I mean, J-Lo was obviously put into this movie because she's an attractive young woman, right? She's part of the love story. Not only is it just a love story, it's like a love triangle where the two brothers are both so enamored with her that like it causes tension in their relationship. So she's cast for that reason. I think she brings a lot more texture to the movie as like an actualized person. She might actually be the person in terms of maybe her racial identity that is most actually like well put together. Although like her probably salsa dancing outside by herself is maybe not like the best representation of that. I think she actually sort of makes the movie work as a movie about passion, right? Because you've got these two guys that sort of like enjoy being cops. Obviously, Charlie's passion is really like gambling, but they are very passionate about their sort of brotherhood, and that is what is jeopardized by her entering the picture. And she shows agency as a character in that she kind of pushes the issue with John, even though she knows that it's going to cause tension. But I am curious if the scene where they filmed the boxing scene came before or after they filmed the love scene, because on the one hand, like Wesley is a trained martial artist. So I would totally understand if you're going into filming and he just tells her like, go ahead and like, just hit me. It's fine. Like, I'm not worried about it because he's trained and he knows how to deflect and blah, blah, blah. But also the way that she hits him a couple of times, like she hits him in the face for real several times. And I'm curious if it was like after maybe they filmed the love scene, like she wanted to be a little bit more aggressive in the ring, which I would completely understand, because she clocks him first with like a left hook. And then as they're kind of talking, like he's moving and just playing defense and just like mostly making her throw punches. But there's a couple of times where she hits him, and she gets him in the corner at one point and she like tries to hit him in the face, but then she hits him with a body shot. And like you can see on his face that he's like, oof, that one like stung a little bit. So I'm like, is he really just that good of an actor where like this was all sequenced out and he knew that it was going to happen? Because it's like she got him a couple of times really good. And Yeah, I guess I just like selfishly want to know, like, in what order was that filmed?
Yeah, take a little bit of method acting there. Take your real life frustrations and channel that into your character. It's that scene definitely feels very authentic to me. I trained kickboxing with a 2-time world champion when I was living in New Orleans, and we used to do sparring every Saturday, and he would, just name a couple people from our gym, and we'd just jump into the ring together and just try to beat the crap out of each other. And that scene feels very much like what I used to do, right down to the dudes pretty much just doing the defense. And the girls feeling like they have something to prove, the women, sorry, not girls. Although it irks me now when I watch this scene and she's very like, she's like, don't hold back. Like, I'm awesome and I can take a punch from Wesley Snipes in the face. And it's like, actually, no, when we would do sparring and it'd be a giant ass guy against a female fighter, it was always watch your contact. You're not trying to hit them as hard as you can. And there was an understanding that even the toughest, best fighter is not going to take a punch from somebody significantly stronger and heavier than them. Anyway, that's probably like way too much detail and not necessary, but I like that scene. I feel like it's quite realistic, and the way they kind of talk through their issues while they're sparring is like the verbal sparring alongside the physical boxing sparring is well done.
Yeah, I think it is a good scene, and it's kind of like a unique scene for this movie as well, in that a lot of boxing movies are about sort of like pulling punches and stuff. And this was like, no, the camera's just in there with them and they're kind of like really sparring. And there are definitely, of course, they have to do like some close-ups where they cut and they pull the punch a little bit. But for the most part, a lot of that scene is just filmed with her throwing punches at Wesley and him playing defense. But I guess that begs the question, like, did you take up kickboxing in New Orleans because of Money Train?
It's very possible because this character had a lot of effect, I feel like, on my development as a person and who I wanted to be. I loved how tough she was and how driven and focused on like her chosen career and how she's like super idealistic about what she does, and that she's the kind of character that can hang with the boys, and all those things like played into who I became. It's very possible that had I not seen this movie, I would not have had the desire to jump in the ring and do some kickboxing.
Interesting. J-Lo had a big effect on you. So,
right?
How do you like look back on her performance in this movie now? Because obviously, like, I think at the end of the day, this is probably the least J-Lo movie of all the J-Lo movies that we're going to cover, in the sense that she isn't the star of the movie. But I think this movie is important in her career in terms of it being a launching pad for her stardom, as it being like her first major role in like a big Hollywood movie. So looking back on it now, 30 years later, like, how do you view this one?
Well, I think her performance is great, and she does what she needs to do. And part of what she needs to do is to not overshadow the rest of the plot, the rest of the story. She's sort of more supportive, and she does that extremely well. She's her own character, and but she doesn't, I don't know, brain just gave up in the middle of that thought. I think it's I don't know, it might be one of the strongest initial, first career defining roles, or not, well, career introducing roles that I've seen, that I can think of from any actor. So very positive in my opinion.
Good. I think it's important to sort of, especially when doing like kind of retrospective kind of things, to jump around in different points in someone's career, because it's like starting with her first movie like wouldn't necessarily make sense because it's kind of a bit part in a movie where she's not the focal point. I think in the context of this movie, she's in there with some people who are like incredibly experienced actors at this point, and she has to hold her own with some big personalities in the film.
Yes,
and
definitely.
She does. And so I think it's a good showcase. And when I'm thinking of like roles for Juneffer Lopez that actually maybe showcase some acting range, granted, she sort of was able to cash in on being a rom-com lead, and like no shame to her for that. But I feel like that's not as much of a stretch like artistically in terms of performance, where starting with The Cell and then going to a movie like this and seeing what she's doing in roles that are challenging her as an actor are going to be important for kind of a look back at her career as a whole. Because we're going to cover some rom-com territory too. I've got The Wedding Planner is up next. So, that's like a formative one. So I think it was maybe like what was that, 97, 98, somewhere between this movie and the 2000 buffer before she started doing like music videos. So we'll get to see her like lead a movie as a romantic interest opposite McConaughey, and then close out the month with Anaconda. So it's kind of like the star-making movie for her, as well as like an action lead.
Yeah.
So to jump from like Money Train to that, but even in Anaconda, like she's surrounded by a lot of veteran acting talent. Sans Ice Cube, who's kind of like new at the time as well. He's done a few things, but yeah, she's surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of acting chops, and she kind of just doesn't. All of the burden isn't on her, and I think that's smart.
That's you've got a solid slate of movie choices for discussing her, kind of all over the board. So good on you. Good choices.
And then I think when we end up doing some rom-comathon episodes, there will probably be some J-Lo movies that trickle down into that one as well. But now that we've sort of covered all of our bases, I'm going to go over to the bonus wheel.
All right, spin
it up. I've added some new questions, although...
Oh, no.
Although...
I won't have answers prepared.
Well, I try to, like, every time I think of one, I try to add it, but there will be a time where it's like, I'm laying in bed, I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I'm like, that's a good question. I should write it down. Nah, I'll remember it. And then I don't remember it. So I've been trying to be better about it. And this isn't a new one. But the question is, how would you sell this movie to a first-time watcher? I think it's a good question, though.
Huh.
Robert Blake will fuck you dead.
That's exactly what I'd say. No. I mean, I'd probably just lay out, it's two brothers who are cops. One of them's Wesley Snipes. The other's Woody Harrelson. I would definitely tell you who the actors are, not just that it's a black guy and a white guy. And say that one of them gets into money trouble, decides to run this money train that they basically was their job to protect. And it's got lots of good action and comedy, and it's a good 90s action movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sells it at all, but that's what I would say. I think.
The trailer guy voice, like, did you like White Men Can't Jump? Do you want more banter from Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes? Well, check out Money Train.
Exactly. It's not quite as good, but you might enjoy it.
But there's a train and there's gunfire. There's more action. No, I think that's a good way to do it. Now we're gonna head over to more or less. I think it's a good question for this movie in that, what do you want more of, and what do you want less of in this film?
Okay, more of. That sounds like a funny word. I would have gone with a little bit more planning the heist kind of aspects, because that's very much not shown. And it's one of the weaknesses, I think, of, I don't know, the plan is not great. He doesn't have any sort of backup plan. I don't know. It's sort of like a heist movie, but without the build up.
Yeah,
it kind of drops us into it in a rather unsatisfying way.
It's not heisty enough for a heist movie.
Yeah.
It's maybe not quite actiony enough for an action movie. It's not dramatic enough for a drama about two brothers of opposite races in a love triangle. It's a movie that I felt like they took the buckshot approach, right? Like, we want a wide spread here rather than sort of choosing like a sniper rifle and being like, we want to hit the target and we want to be precise. We're going to go blunderbuss here and just throw a little bit of everything into the cartridge and see what happens.
Interesting analogy.
This movie is a blunderbuss.
A blunder train. What would I want less of? I don't know. I like it all.
Okay.
No, my brain's not going to give me an answer to that because I like what I'm given.
Good. That's fine. I think, let me see. So if I want more of something or if I want less of something, I guess give me less preamble of them doing like their sort of like boring undercover cop work.
You thought that was boring? I enjoyed the decoy scenes.
I mean, I like the first one. I don't think they had to go back to it the second time. I feel like if they're transit cops, like they can just be transit cops, like they know about the money train. I get it. They wanted to have fun and establish that this is like a sort of humorous movie in the beginning, but yeah, I would say maybe that. I felt like I could watch like the first half an hour of the movie without like even paying attention. It's like it's just kind of happening. They're so charismatic that it makes the movie fun to watch, and like it's fun to watch them like be drunks, but then all of a sudden it turns that on its head and it's like super dramatic with the torch, and so I feel like just pick a lane. Right? Do you want to be like a police buddy comedy, or do you want to be like a police drama? And can those two things coexist? I don't know. Critics would say probably not. So let's go to Critics Corner and see what they had to say about this one. Like I said, it doesn't have a Metascore, so we don't have like a full board like we usually do. So I have to look at the Rotten Tomatoes critic score, which is not always wonderful. So we're going to start with this is Pete Vonderhaar from Film Threat. Gave it a 2 out of 5, and this was a review from 2005. So way late in the game, but it says Harrelson and Snipes reproduced their on-screen magic from White Men Can't Jump, even though no one asked them to.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's rude. But I mean, at least he does give them credit for reproducing the magic.
I think I take issue with that because I feel like the entire reason this movie exists is because people wanted to see more Wesley Woody.
Correct.
So I mean, the no one asked them to thing. No, everyone asked them to. Well,
yes,
not everyone, but
yes, maybe audiences didn't and critics didn't, but a lot of people in the business did. And during the featurette, one of the things that the voiceover guy says is like everyone's favorite like Hollywood duo, and it's the two of them. So yeah, I think there are definitely people that wanted this, myself included. At the time, I didn't know I wanted it because I hadn't seen it yet, and I was a child, but then I saw it and I was like, hey, this is like fits in perfectly with the 90s movies that I enjoy. Okay, let's go. It's going to be out of order because it's Rotten Tomatoes, but let's go to Stephen Holden from the New York Times. Gave it a good review, 4 out of 5. And this is from 2003. Says more viscerally charged than Speed and hipper than Die Hard with a Vengeance. This movie is a careening, screeching joyride that showers sparks like fireworks. Wow, that is a glowing review.
That was the same word that popped into my head. Glowing. Yes.
Wow.
That's good. I mean, good on him. Wow.
Do you imagine Stephen Holden to be a hockey fan by any chance?
Do I imagine him to be a hockey fan?
Because
I hadn't thought of that.
The only time that I ever hear the word careening is hockey announcers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I see that, I'm like, I feel like he's been watching some Rangers games.
Huh, maybe.
I don't think the movie is better than Speed or Die Hard with a Vengeance, but
agreed.
I feel like it's operating like in a similar realm as those movies, and I do enjoy both of those movies quite a bit. I actually prefer Die Hard with a Vengeance over the other Die Hard movies, which I'd probably take some flack for, but screw it. I love Jeremy Irons and Sam Jackson, so sue me. And yeah, it does sort of viscerally charged in Speed. I don't know. I feel like Speed thrives on the Keanu and Sandra energy. You do get like a very sort of Batman-y villain in that one as well. And I mean, sure, I guess it's like hipper than Die Hard with a Vengeance, but Die Hard's not trying to be hip. So I don't know. But whatever. I'll take the 4 out of 5. I'm glad that Stephen liked it and the New York Times gave it a positive review. Let's see. We've got another positive one. This is Kenneth Turan from the LA Times. Said Money Train is a by the numbers action buddy picture, and a few directors run through those numbers as smoothly as Joseph Ruben. So yeah, just, giving credit to economical filmmaking from a competent filmmaker. And the movie is composed well. It's paced well. It's structured well visually, I think, for the most part. Probably way more cinematic than this kind of movie needed to be, but it does take care in how its shot composition is. And that goes a long way with the movie because it's just like the style, like you kind of feel it, and it's like quietly making it more enjoyable without drawing a ton of attention to that element of it. So I like the soft touch.
Sounds good. I'll take your word for all the technical aspects. All I know is I enjoyed it. So I was probably subtly enjoying all that behind the scenes.
Yeah, it just like kind of like seeps in there without really getting into it. Okay, let's see. This has no. I found one with a score attached to it. 2.5 out of 4, but it got a splatter. This guy didn't like it. This is Mike Clark from USA Today from a review from the year 2000. Said it's stupid, but also breezier than the year's other 12 score releases. Not worth a second look. So I don't know what the other movies he's referring to that year are, but don't talk shit about Waterworld, Mike. That's a 95 movie. Let's see who else we got. Berardinelli gave it a 0.5.
Jeez.
No actual review attached.
Wow.
Ken Tucker from Entertainment Weekly gave it a D+, and this is opening weekend. So we found one from opening weekend. Says a big noisy headache of a movie. ... Not a train man, I see, Ken. And then let me see if I can find one more to close it out. We'll go with Chris Hicks from the Deseret News in Salt Lake City. Never heard of it, but didn't give it a score, just gave it a splat. Said the 2 stars do manage to get off a couple amusing riffs, and Snipes gets to show off his kung fu fighting skills, but that's hardly enough to rescue what amounts to a real mess. I do, like I said, the movie feels like a blunderbuss, but not in the sense that it's messy as much as it is just sort of scattered. Because Ruben is a competent filmmaker, and I feel like given what the movie is trying to accomplish, it is doing its best, but it's also trying to do a lot while also operating under the sort of like 90-minute guideline of the 90s, where a movie that's 2 hours, 10 minutes of this ilk is not going to get seen. But I feel like the movie could be longer to flesh out some of the discussions that they're actually like trying to have.
I would have watched more of it.
Yeah. Bring them back. Money Plane. I mean, that is a movie, but it is not a sequel to this. It is just sort of like a knockoff of this. Okay, well, now that we've covered our bases there, let's get to the gateway drug movie. So for folks at home who are listening to the soothing tones of our voices, what is a movie that might help them decide to watch Money Train if they haven't? What's a good gateway drug movie?
Well, my answers are going to be boring because they're things we've already talked about in this discussion. I'd say White Men Can't Jump. That's the big one. You know, if you like that dynamic between those actors, those characters, you're probably going to like seeing it again. And then the other thing that popped into my head would be Ambulance with the brothers duo of Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an appropriate comparison for a number of reasons. You also got someone like Michael Bay, who, you know, cut his teeth on making sort of 90s actioners as well. So he would fit the mold of a lot of movies. Like if you told me Michael Bay directed Money Train, I'd be like, yeah, I could understand that. So, you know, I was kind of like leaning into options for other Wesley Snipes movies, and I was like, maybe not. And then like other Woody Harrelson movies, probably not. And then I started thinking of train movies, and I decided to go with The Taking of Pelham 123.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The remake, though.
Yeah.
Since we mentioned Tony Scott, this is the one with Denzel and Travolta, and it is about a New York subway train hijacking, hostage, ransom situation. So I think it fits the locale theme in that it's in the subway, but also in that there is a sort of juxtaposition of the two main characters being racial opposites and having sort of the black character in Denzel be the one who is very dedicated to his job and doing like the good thing. And then the Travolta character being the one who is holding the train for ransom. So you've got that, you've got the train in New York, you've got like a price tag attached to it as well. I think that's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, I like that. It's another movie that sort of uses the New York City subway system as a character in itself. I like that.
Yeah, and you know, there's not I don't know that many train movies. Like I would have to think of a lot more, but I mean, yeah, Speed obviously is kind of like a little bit more direct line comparison, but we already talked about Speed, and so since Tony Scott didn't make Money Train, he made Taking of Pelham 123, and I was like, I can't do the original because that's a little bit too far removed and maybe not as apt of a comparison, but I did like the remake. So
actually, I've only seen the remake. That's what year was the original?
Oh, 60. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Let me see.
I think I watched
74.
I think I watched the remake without realizing it was a remake, and then have just never sought out the original.
I didn't realize that there was also another remake in between the two, which was a TV movie starring Edward James Olmos and Vincent D'Onofrio and Donnie Wahlberg. So,
all right.
Yeah. Well, we talked about D'Onofrio in The Cell, so that might be a good sort of piece of connective tissue for anybody that's interested as well. I don't know. It's on Tubi. If you want to watch a TV movie from 1998, please, by all means, enjoy Tubi. I did not prepare word association for today, but I did have a late night last night, so I didn't get to it. But I want to just give you the chance to talk about anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up and get out of here. I know we're going to get back to doing the sci-fi show soon. I can probably release the Contact episode here in the next day or two. I gotta clear a different episode that I recorded for a different show I need a green light on that before I can move on to editing the next thing. So,
yeah. So the last thing I would want to bring in is I'd like to talk just a little bit more about Chris Cooper.
Where does he fall in your Chris rankings?
Goodness.
Does he get included?
He would absolutely be number one, even though he's not as hot as Hemsworth. Chris Cooper, I just think he's a fantastic actor. And
absolutely.
He does so well in every role, everything I've ever seen him in. He's noticeable and enjoyable. And I like this part for him because
so do I.
I feel like he doesn't play, like kind of the psycho villain much. That's not like really his wheelhouse or his what he's usually cast for, but he does it very well. He's extremely menacing in this movie as the killer guy who has no motive, like just this motiveless psycho wants to make people experience smelling their own flesh burning. It's
gross.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that this is one of his earlier roles. I guess I pulled up his filmography just because I was thinking about what else has he been in and what other types of characters has he played. And I guess he didn't start acting till like the mid to late 80s, which I tend to think of him as somebody who's just always been around. And I guess mid to late 80s, that's still, the majority of my life. But but still, it's not, it's late. This is fairly early in his career, and he's just been in his film career, at least. I don't know if he did anything before film, but and he just knocks it out of the park. He just knocks everything out of the park from day one.
Yeah, I don't think he's a character or like an actor that I recognized at the time I watched the movie first, and then going back and being like, oh, it's very easily identifiable as Chris Cooper. And he is a fantastic actor. And he's kind of one of those guys that, like, he doesn't always take big roles. He doesn't always need big roles. Wherever you put him in, he's going to deliver. And I think it's more about him ending up in a situation where either the writer or the director really understands like his skill set and is able to utilize him in a way that maxes out his potential. And in a role like this, we get to see like glimpses of him and his like trajectory at the time. He's super creepy in this. The long hair with the trench coat is like, is he naked under there? Like there's that gross sort of identity that goes along with it, especially coming out of like a story told in New York. Especially like if you're like kind of keeping in mind 70s like exploitation era, he looks like he's always like oiled up also, which is like extra gross. Like is his skin just like oily because he's covered in burns and he needs to like lubricate himself? He's got his one crispy hand, which is really disgusting, that is just like dangling out of his coat. And yeah, the kind of like lecherous like sneer that he uses on these attendants in the booth is just, it's very predatory in a sexual way as well. So that's why like sort of like the trench coat and like everything about the character is very just like disgusting. But also in the final like showdown that he has with Wesley, when he gets lit on fire, his stunt double gets lit on fire, I was like, you know what? There is a lot to be had from just like a good stuntman who knows how to get lit on fire and like really bring that to a movie. Like you have to, it's a skill and it's super dangerous, but to see like an actual person get lit on fire, and I mean, he wasn't the actual person that got hit with the train, but to sequence all of that is again that sort of attention to detail in the filmmaking, and why, you know, the costs for a movie like this ended up being as much as they were. Like if you told me to guess, which maybe I should do at the beginning of the movie or the discussions, like guess how much this movie cost to make, I would have never guessed it cost $68 million.
Yeah, I have no idea what I would have guessed at. Especially if I hadn't known about how much they had to make to build the set. Like if I had just thought that it was, I don't know, filmed in some lesser used corner of the actual subway system, I'm sure my guess about the budget would have been a lot lower. So
yeah, and especially at that time too, the 90s have been like, a really expensive movie in the 90s was like maybe 100 million. So I'd say 25. So like, yeah, this was a very expensive production, and at least the money was well spent. It looks good on screen, and I think that's what you want out of a movie that you're going to spend a ton to make look good on screen. So yeah, it wins.
I agree.
Cool. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to chat about before we wrap it up?
No, I think we hit most of the points.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on my notes that really we didn't get a chance to chat about. So I'm good. I'm good if you're good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm good. I enjoyed our Money Train discussion, just like I enjoy Money Train movie that, I've watched 3 times this calendar year now.
Wow. Oh, wow. I feel ashamed that I only watched it once, but I did watch a lot of like other Money Train stuff,
Yeah.
Some interviews. There's like a 23-minute behind the scenes thing it's pretty interesting. It's like a little featurette to accompany the movie. So they were really trying to sell it at the time. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and we haven't seen Woody and Wesley together again since.
Maybe if we're good.
Maybe.
We just need to cross our fingers and, I don't know, ask Santa.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. As always, we will get back on track for the other show soon. And we'll talk very shortly after this, I imagine.
You as well. I had a blast.
Cool. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Stephanie for coming back on the show. It seems like she and I both grew up with this movie, and it was really nice to talk to somebody else who saw it in adolescence and wanted to revisit it in adulthood. As I'm sure some of you know, Stephanie is my co-host on the show Bi-Mon-Sci-Fi-Con, which is a members-exclusive sci-fi-specific show here at Bad Movies We Love. It's been a little while since we got together and talked sci-fi movies, but we are planning to get back together soon and start releasing new episodes again for you. Contact is already in the bank, and The Arrival is on deck. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to the episode. I know there's a seemingly infinite number of options when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you letting me into your ear holes and hopefully into your hearts. In all seriousness, though, time is valuable, and I am very grateful that you've entrusted me with yours. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving a review or at least a rating and telling a friend about it. If you don't enjoy it, then maybe let's keep that between us. As I mentioned in the open, the new members only section is in fact live at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support, where you're going to get access to a bunch of goodies for only $5 a month. And I would absolutely love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love and would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or badmovieswelove spelled LUV on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies. I know you're out there somewhere, Rids. I love you.